The quantum drive hummed its familiar lullaby as Commander Evelyn Nash studied the pulsing signal on her navigation display. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything the universe had to offer. The ethereal glow of the Emerald Nebula cast shadows across her cockpit, its swirling gases creating patterns that seemed almost alive. "Warning, unknown energy signature detected," announced Aria, her ship's AI companion. "Pattern matches no known civilization in database." Evelyn leaned forward, her dark eyes reflecting the mysterious signal. "Analysis? Energy output suggests advanced technology, but the signature contains organic components I cannot identify." "Fascinating." A smile tugged at Evelyn's lips. When Aria found something fascinating, it usually meant trouble. But trouble had always been her most reliable companion in the vast emptiness of space. "Plot a course, Aria. Let's see what we're dealing with." As her ship, the Star Weaver, adjusted its trajectory, Evelyn reviewed the signal data. It wasn't like anything she'd encountered in her years with the Stellar Exploration Corps. The pattern seemed to pulse with a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. The nebula parted before them, revealing a planet that shouldn't exist. Its surface shimmered with patterns of bioluminescent light, visible even from orbit. Massive crystalline structures rose from the surface, their geometry too perfect to be natural. "Aria, are you seeing this?" "Affirmative. Detecting multiple energy signatures similar to the original signal. Also reading numerous life forms with unusual biological compositions." Before Evelyn could respond, her ship's systems suddenly flickered. A wave of energy washed over the Star Weaver, and every display erupted with cascading symbols she'd never seen before. "Emergency protocols engaged," Aria announced, her usual calm voice tinged with uncertainty. "Unknown force is attempting to interface with our systems." The symbols coalesced into a single message: "The Chosen returns." The cycle begins anew. "Aria, full scan of," Evelyn's command was cut short as a beam of prismatic light engulfed her ship. The Star Weaver's engines died, and they began a controlled descent toward the planet's surface. "Unable to override external control," Aria reported. "The technology appears to be integrated with organic components." "Fascinating." "You need a new definition of fascinating," Evelyn muttered, strapping herself in as the planet's surface rushed up to meet them. They landed with unexpected gentleness in a clearing surrounded by towering crystal spires. The local atmosphere swirled with bioluminescent particles that danced like fireflies in the alien twilight. "Atmosphere is breathable," Aria announced. "Though I detect trace elements of unknown composition. Recommend caution." Evelyn checked her sidearm and grabbed her exploration kit. "Keep the engines primed for emergency departure. If I'm not back in 6 hours. I am aware of protocol, Commander. Though I calculate the probability of this encounter following any known protocol to be approximately 0. That's what makes it interesting." Evelyn sealed her suit and stepped toward the airlock. The door opened with a hiss, revealing a world that defied explanation. The crystal spires pulsed with internal light, creating patterns that seemed to respond to her presence. The ground beneath her feet was covered in a material that looked like moss but sparkled like diamonds. Each step sent ripples of light spreading outward through the strange vegetation. "Commander," Aria's voice came through her calm, "I'm detecting movement. Multiple entities approaching from the north." Evelyn turned to see figures emerging from between the crystal structures. They moved with impossible grace, their forms seeming to shift and flow like liquid mercury. Their skin shimmered with patterns similar to the planet's surface, and their eyes glowed with an inner light that spoke of intelligence far beyond human understanding. The leader of the group stepped forward, its form solidifying into a more humanoid shape. "Welcome, Starchild," it spoke, its voice resonating directly in Evelyn's mind. "We have waited countless cycles for your return." "I think there's been a mistake," Evelyn said, fighting the urge to step back. I'm Commander Evelyn Nash of the Stellar Exploration Corps. This is a first contact situation. The being's expression shifted in a way that might have been amusement. There are no mistakes in the Great Cycle, Evelyn Nash. Your arrival was written in the crystal songs before your species first looked to the stars. More of the beings emerged from the crystal forest, each carrying objects that pulsed with the same energy that had disabled her ship. They began to move in a pattern around her, their forms flowing and merging like a dance of living mercury. The binding must begin, the leader announced. The prophecy must be fulfilled. As the beings closed in, Evelyn realized this wasn't just another first contact mission. She had stumbled into something far older and more dangerous than anything in her training manuals. The crystal songs began to rise around her, and with them, a power that seemed to reach into her very soul. The adventure she had always sought had finally found her, but as the alien choir reached its crescendo, she wondered if she had finally found the one mystery she shouldn't have tried to solve. The crystalline chamber hummed with energy as Evelyn regained consciousness. Her head throbbed with echoes of the alien choir, and her skin tingled where the strange light had touched her. Around her, the walls pulsed with patterns that seemed to respond to her thoughts. Your resistance is impressive, a melodic voice observed. Most beings lose consciousness immediately upon exposure to the crystal songs. Evelyn turned to find one of the mercury-skinned beings watching her. Unlike the others, this one maintained a consistently humanoid form, and its eyes held something almost like concern. It wore elaborate robes that seemed woven from living light. I'm Sareth, the being said, moving closer. I serve as keeper of the ancient records. Why am I here? Evelyn asked, noting that her equipment had been removed but finding herself otherwise unrestrained. What was that about a prophecy? Saretha's form rippled slightly. The crystal songs speak of a bridge between worlds, one who would come from the stars to complete the great cycle. We have waited millennia for your arrival. There's been a mistake, Evelyn insisted, standing carefully. I followed an unusual signal. That's all. And how did you alone detect this signal, when countless others have passed through the nebula unseeing? Sareth gestured, and the wall behind them transformed into a shifting display of alien symbols. The crystal songs do not make mistakes, Evelyn Nash. Before she could respond, the chamber's entrance dissolved, revealing the leader from earlier. Its mercury skin now rippled with patterns of deep purple and gold. High Oracle, Sareth bowed. The Chosen One awakens. So I see, the High Oracle's voice resonated directly in Evelyn's mind again. And still she denies her destiny. Fascinating. The Oracle approached, its form shifting constantly. I am Nixus, voice of the crystal songs. Through me, the ancient prophecies find their fulfillment. Look, Evelyn said, fighting to keep her voice steady, I respect your beliefs, but I'm not part of any prophecy. I'm an explorer, nothing more. Nixus laughed, the sound sending shivers through the crystalline walls. Your denial changes nothing. The binding ritual approaches, and you will fulfill your role, willing or not. A subtle tension passed between Sareth and Nixus, gone so quickly Evelyn almost missed it. High Oracle, Sareth said carefully, the ancient texts speak of willing participation. Forcing the Chosen One could. You forget your place, Keeper, Nixus interrupted, its form darkening. The crystal songs speak through me alone. As if in response, the chamber's lights flickered, and Evelyn felt a wave of dizziness. The symbols on the walls began to move more rapidly, their glow intensifying. The resonance builds, Nixus announced. Prepare her for the first binding. As Nixus flowed from the chamber, Evelyn caught Saretha's expression. Beneath the carefully maintained neutrality, she saw something that looked remarkably like fear. What aren't you telling me? She asked once they were alone. Sareth hesitated, then moved closer, voice dropping to barely a whisper. The crystal songs speak of transformation, yes, but also of choice. What Nixis plans? The Keeper's form shimmered with anxiety. It is not as our ancestors intended. My ship's AI, Evelyn said. Can you contact? Your artificial companion is safe, but isolated. The crystal matrix prevents external communication. Saratha's form solidified further, becoming almost completely humanoid. But there may be another way. If you truly wish to understand your role here, you must see the archive of first songs. A distant chorus began to echo through the chamber, making the crystals pulse in response. Saratha's expression grew urgent. They come to prepare you for the binding. Tonight, when the three moons align, find the symbol of the broken circle. If you truly are the one spoken of in prophecy, you will know what to do. Before Evelyn could respond, more of the mercury-skinned beings flowed into the chamber. Unlike Sarath, these moved in perfect synchronization, their forms barely distinguishable from one another. They surrounded her in a flowing dance of liquid metal and light. As they led her from the chamber, Evelyn caught one last glimpse of Sarath. The Keeper stood perfectly still, watching her with an expression that carried both hope and terror. Whatever this binding ritual was, whatever role she was supposed to play, one thing was becoming clear: there was far more at stake than a simple prophecy. The processional moved through corridors that seemed to grow and shift as they passed, crystal spires singing in harmonies that made her bones vibrate. Each step brought new patterns of light and shadow, and Evelyn found her mind starting to drift, pulled along by the hypnotic rhythms of this impossible place. But beneath the beauty and wonder, a deeper current was forming. In the way the attendants moved, in the fear she'd seen in Saratha's eyes, in the High Oracle's absolute certainty, something wasn't right. The prophecy might be real, but its interpretation was another matter entirely. As they approached a vast chamber filled with swirling lights, Evelyn made her decision. Tonight, when the moons aligned, she would find the broken circle. Whatever secrets the archive of first songs held, they had to be better than blindly submitting to a ritual she didn't understand. The only question was, would she survive long enough to discover the truth? The three moons cast intersecting shadows across the crystal city as Evelyn made her way through the darkened corridors. Her body still hummed with residual energy from the preparation rituals, but her mind remained clear, unnaturally so. She suspected Sarath had something to do with that. The symbol of the broken circle turned out to be more literal than she'd expected. A massive crystalline disk, split by a jagged crack, hung suspended in a hidden courtyard. As she approached, the crack began to glow with an inner light. You came. Sarath emerged from the shadows, form shifting more erratically than usual. Though we have little time. The final alignment approaches. Tell me what's really going on here, Evelyn demanded. What does Nixis want with me? Sarath guided her toward the broken circle. What do you know of quantum entanglement, Commander? It's a fundamental principle of particle physics. When particles become entangled, they maintain a connection regardless of distance. Yes, Saratha's form stabilized. Now imagine that principle applied to consciousness itself. Our ancestors discovered a way to create a quantum bridge between minds, between souls. The crystal songs are its expression. The broken circle began to rotate, its edges emanating patterns that matched the ones Evelyn had seen in the preparation chamber. But something went wrong, she guessed. The bridge was meant to connect, to share understanding between different species, different worlds. Saratha's voice carried centuries of sorrow. But Nixis discovered it could be used to dominate, to absorb. Each ritual adds another consciousness to the collective, strengthening their control. The synchronized movements, the shared thoughts, they're all connected to Nixis? Not just connected. Consumed. Sarath touched the broken circle, sending ripples of light through its surface. The prophecy speaks of one whose mind could complete the bridge, creating perfect harmony between all conscious beings. Nixis believes forcing this connection will grant them absolute power over reality itself. The implications hit Evelyn like a physical blow. That's why the others moved so mechanically. They're not individuals anymore. Some of us maintain a degree of independence through our assigned roles, Sereth explained. As keeper of records, my connection to the collective is filtered. But even that protection fades. Soon, we will all be nothing but extensions of Nixus's will. A distant chorus began to build, making the crystals vibrate in response. The alignment ritual, Sereth's form flickered anxiously. They will be looking for you. Then we don't have much time. Evelyn studied the broken circle. Show me these records. There has to be a way to stop this. Sereth pressed both hands against the circle's surface. The crack blazed with light, and suddenly the courtyard was filled with flowing streams of data, images, texts, and songs from a civilization far older than humanity. Our ancestors were not native to this world, Sereth explained as the history unfolded around them. They came as refugees, fleeing a catastrophe that threatened to tear reality apart. The crystal songs were meant to be a defense, a way to maintain harmony between consciousness and quantum reality. The images showed beings of pure energy discovering the crystals, learning to shape them, building the foundations of their civilization. But as the story continued, the images grew darker. Evelyn saw the first experiments with collective consciousness, the gradual corruption of the original purpose, and finally, the emergence of the oracles. Nixus isn't the first to abuse this power, she realized. No, but they may be the last. The prophecy speaks of a culmination, a point where the bridge between worlds becomes permanent. If Nixus succeeds in forcing this connection. A new chorus joined the distant singing, this one closer and more urgent. The preparation chamber's crystals were beginning to pulse in sequence. They're starting the final ritual, Sereth's form became almost transparent with fear. Without you, but if they complete it. They'll try to force the connection anyway, Evelyn finished. And burn out every mind in the collective trying to make it work. The broken circle's light pulsed in rhythm with her words, and suddenly Evelyn understood. The prophecy wasn't about creating a bridge, it was about breaking one that had grown too powerful. How many others, she asked. How many still have enough independence to help? A few dozen, scattered throughout the lower levels. The crystal songs affect them less deeply there. Sereth's form solidified with new purpose. You have a plan? The beginning of one. Evelyn touched the broken circle, and for a moment, she could feel the quantum connections vibrating through reality itself. Tell me, keeper of records, what do your ancestors' songs say about feedback loops? Above them, the three moons moved closer to alignment as the chorus grew stronger. In the heart of the Crystal City, ancient powers were awakening. But for the first time since her arrival, Evelyn felt something like hope. The prophecy had brought her here for a reason, just not the one Nixus expected. The real question was, could they act fast enough to prevent a catastrophe that would consume not just this world, but potentially all of reality itself? Deep beneath the crystal spires, Evelyn and Sereth moved through shadow-filled corridors where the songs held less power. Around them, a small group of resistance members gathered, those who had maintained enough independence to fight back. Their mercury forms flickered like candlelight, struggling to maintain cohesion this far from the collective. The quantum harmonics are already building, Sereth reported, studying patterns in a fractured crystal panel. Nixus grows desperate. Without you as a focal point, the ritual risks tearing reality apart. Then we'll use that desperation, Evelyn said, checking the jerry-rigged device she'd assembled from parts of her suit's communication system. Your ancestors built safeguards into the original system, didn't they? Yes, but Nixus has overridden most of them. The collective consciousness was never meant to be concentrated in a single being. One of the resistance members, who'd introduced herself as Lyra, moved forward. Her form was more stable than most, suggesting a stronger will. The subharmonics still respond to the original protocols. If we can access them, we can create a feedback loop, Evelyn finished. Use Nixus's own connection against them. She turned to address the group. But I need to know you understand the risks. This could burn out everyone connected to the collective. We're already burning, another member, Vorn, said softly. Each day, more of ourselves fade into the chorus. Better to risk everything for freedom than surrender to eternal slavery. The chamber vibrated as another wave of quantum energy pulsed through the crystal matrix. Above, the moon's alignment drew closer to its peak. The ritual chamber will be heavily guarded, Sareth warned. Even those who doubt Nixus can't resist direct commands through the collective. Evelyn smiled grimly. That's counting on a direct approach. But you showed me something in the archives. The crystal matrix isn't just a network, it's a living system. And living systems have immune responses. She activated her jury-rigged device, sending a subtle vibration through the surrounding crystals. The patterns shifted, creating a temporary blind spot in the collective's awareness. Nixus sees through every connected mind, she explained, but they're so focused on the macro connections, they ignore the quantum scale fluctuations. We can move through their blind spots if we time it right. The resistance members spread out, each carrying a modified crystal shard tuned to Evelyn's frequency. As they moved, they created a cascade of subtle distortions, like ripples in the quantum field itself. Remember, Evelyn instructed, we only need to hold the disruption for a few minutes. Once the feedback loop starts, the system's own safeguards will do the rest. They began their ascent through the crystal city's layers, timing their movements between pulses of the collective's awareness. Each level brought them closer to the overwhelming chorus of synchronized minds, but Evelyn's device kept them just out of phase with the main harmonic. Near the ritual chamber, they encountered their first real test. A group of fully synchronized beings stood guard, their forms flowing together like mercury streams. They'll sense any direct approach, Sareth whispered. The connection is too strong here. Evelyn studied the guard's movement pattern. They're not sensing reality directly anymore, they're seeing what Nixus allows them to see. Watch their synchronized movements. There's a delay, a processing lag. She adjusted her device's frequency, creating a localized distortion that matched the guard's rhythm. For a crucial moment, their perception of that space would loop, showing them the same empty corridor over and over. The resistance members slipped through during that fractional delay, their forms barely maintaining cohesion under the overwhelming pressure of the collective's chorus. Inside the ritual chamber, the sight took Evelyn's breath away. Hundreds of beings moved in perfect synchronization, their forms merged into flowing patterns that defied physics. At the chamber's center, Nixus had evolved into something barely comprehensible, a quantum storm of consciousness given physical form. The bridge forms. Nixus's voice resonated through reality itself. The prophecy will be fulfilled. You're right about one thing, Evelyn said, activating her device at full power. The prophecy ends today. The resistance members took up positions around the chamber's perimeter, their crystal shards beginning to pulse in a counter-rhythm to the collective's chorus. Nixus's form writhed as the first hints of feedback entered the system. What have you done? The prophecy wasn't about building a bridge, Evelyn declared, understanding flowing through her like the crystal songs themselves. It was about breaking one that had grown too powerful. Your ancestors tried to warn you, but you were too drunk on power to listen. The quantum harmonics began to shift, centuries of failsafes activating in sequence. Around them, the synchronized beings began to twitch and shudder as the connection to Nixus weakened. You would destroy everything we've built? Nixus's form expanded, trying to overwhelm the feedback. Condemn us to isolation? No, Evelyn stood her ground as reality itself seemed to flex around them. I'm giving them back their choice. The three moons reached perfect alignment, and the crystal matrix erupted with blinding light. The moment of truth had arrived, but would their gamble save this civilization, or tear it apart completely? The ritual chamber erupted in quantum chaos as centuries of carefully constructed control systems began to unravel. Nixus's form expanded like a supernova of liquid mercury, filling the space with terrifying beauty as the feedback loop grew stronger. You understand nothing. Nixus's voice shook reality itself. The isolation will destroy us. We need the collective to survive. But Evelyn saw the truth in the shifting patterns of light and energy. The beings around them weren't just connected, they were awakening. One by one, individual consciousness began to flicker back to life as the overwhelming chorus of the collective weakened. They don't need your control to survive, Evelyn stood firm as waves of quantum energy washed over her. Your ancestors built the crystal songs as a gift, not a chain. Saratha's voice joined hers, stronger now as their plan took effect. The records speak truth, Nixus. The bridge was meant to connect, not consume. We lost our way, but we can find it again. The resistance members' crystal shards pulsed in harmony, their counter-rhythm growing stronger as more minds broke free from Nixus's influence. Each awakening consciousness added to the feedback, creating a cascade effect through the quantum field. Nixus's form began to fragment, threads of mercury light trying to maintain control over the failing system. The prophecy, the bridge between worlds, is exactly what's happening, Evelyn realized, watching the patterns of energy flow through the chamber. Not a bridge of control, but of understanding. Not forced unity, but chosen connection. The three moons reached their perfect alignment, and the crystal matrix sang with power. But instead of the overwhelming chorus Nixus had intended, it became a harmony of individual voices, each contributing its own unique note to the greater song. The choice, Sarath said in wonder, it was always about choice. Around them, the formerly synchronized beings began to move independently, their mercury forms taking on distinct patterns and shapes. The resistance members guided them through the transition, helping each newly awakened mind find its own rhythm in the quantum dance. But Nixus wasn't finished. With a reality-bending surge of power, they attempted to reassert control over the collective. The chamber's crystals groaned under the strain as two fundamental forces collided, the need to control and the desire to connect. Evelyn felt the quantum harmonics reaching a critical point. If the feedback loop grew too strong, it could shatter the entire crystal matrix, destroying the very foundation of this civilization. But if it wasn't strong enough, Nixus would regain control. In that moment of crisis, she understood her true role in the prophecy. The bridge between worlds wasn't just about connecting different species, it was about finding balance between unity and individuality, between the collective and the self. She adjusted her device one final time, not to fight Nixus's power, but to transform it. The quantum field responded, reshaping itself into something new, a network of conscious connection that preserved individual choice while allowing for deeper understanding. Your people don't have to choose between isolation and slavery, she told Nixus as their form began to stabilize. There's another way. There always was. The crystal songs shifted, finding a new harmony that encompassed both individual voices and collective understanding. Nixus's form contracted, forced to exist as one consciousness among many rather than the controller of all. As the quantum storm subsided, the chamber filled with a soft, multi-layered chorus, hundreds of individual voices learning to sing together by choice rather than compulsion. The three moons began to drift apart, their alignment having served its purpose in catalyzing change rather than enforcing control. It will take time, Sarath said, watching as their people began to explore their recovered individuality. Learning to connect without losing ourselves, it won't be easy. Few worthwhile things are, Evelyn smiled, feeling the quantum harmonics settling into a new, more natural rhythm. But at least now you have the choice. In the days that followed, the crystal city transformed. The rigid patterns of forced synchronization gave way to flowing, organic movements as each being rediscovered their unique identity while maintaining conscious connection to the whole. The crystal songs became richer, more complex, a testament to the power of chosen harmony over enforced unity. When it was time for Evelyn to leave, she stood with Sereth at her ship, watching the dawn light play through the crystal spires. The city no longer pulsed with a single overwhelming chorus but sang with countless individual voices joined in voluntary harmony. The prophecy spoke truth, Sereth said, their form now stable but uniquely their own. You were the bridge we needed, not to enforce connection, but to show us how to connect while remaining ourselves. Keep singing your own song, Evelyn replied, understanding now why she had been drawn to that mysterious signal across the vastness of space. Just remember to harmonize once in a while. As the Starweaver lifted off, carrying her back toward the stars, Evelyn reflected on the true power of connection. It wasn't about control or forced unity, but about the beautiful complexity that emerged when conscious beings chose to reach across the boundaries of self to touch something greater. The crystal songs followed her ship into orbit, a symphony of individual voices joined in freely chosen harmony. She had come seeking adventure and discovery. She left having helped birth something entirely new, a civilization learning to balance unity and individuality, connection and freedom, the one and the many. In the end, that was the greatest discovery of all.